another exciting episode of High Voltage. I'm your host. I'm best-selling international author MacKenzie Nelson, and I'm hoping that you had a wonderful Easter spent with family, friends. However you spent it, I hope you felt encouraged by the death and resurrection of our Savior Jesus Christ, who gives us something to be eternally joyful for, even in the hardest of times. Well, for me, every holiday since the estrangement from my family has been its own kind of torment. And so if you are like me, estranged from family, for me, I had a very large family. So every holiday was like full of like hustle and bustle, children, and just a lot of action. And so to go from that to, we get together with my in-laws, but they're very tiny, small family. And it's just been a very different experience for me since I've been estranged for the total of the last 5 years. So if this is you, if you're like me, holidays kind of transitioned for me from a time of like, gladness and joy to, this flip-flopped version of like sorrow and hurt and feeling misunderstood, really, is what I feel each holiday. That there's still this huge misunderstanding about my heart and my intention in my family, and just a longing for that to be resolved so that there could be some sort of peaceful solution, because that is my heart's cry. And what I've been feeling more than ever in this new season is just this resounding, desperation for peace in my life, in my relationships, over everything, my job, my husband, my relationship with my children, just always wanting to work toward peace in every aspect. But sometimes, in order to get to that peaceful resolution, there's got to be the shaking, the jarring, the desolation, right? Where everything's like scorched earth and you're like, how is this ever going to get any better? And that is where my faith comes in. I went on vacation with my little girl. We went to Tampa, St. Pete. We stayed at the big pink castle there, and we had such an amazing time. But in the back of my mind, you see all these fun pictures, is what comes along with being estranged and with experiencing holiday after holiday with no resolution is a sort of anxiety about the upcoming holidays. So I've been praying into a lot, with God. I have to, please just help me, really celebrate you. Keep my focus on you, God, not who isn't here for me, because God is always there for us, guys. Even when it feels like sometimes it can feel like, I know I believe in God, but is he really there? And he wants to hear that from you, in these hard times, in these hard seasons. For me, every holiday is a hard season, especially Mother's Day. Mother's Day is the hardest time, just because if you've read my book, My Father's Feathers, A Journey of Transformation and Healing One Feather at a Time, you know that she really, really wounded me as a child. I suffered a lot of trauma at her hands. And unfortunately, it wasn't until I understood that I had the choice to decide whether or not, as an adult, I still interacted with family members, that I really started to understand the implications on my health, on my mental well-being, that not just her, but other members in my family were playing a role in my demise, in cutting me down. It was like death by 1,000 paper cuts, in my family. I'll never forget taking my grandmother out to lunch one day, and it was a beautiful sunny day outside. I picked her up. We had a lovely lunch, and I go to drop her back off at her house, and I was like 100 pounds heavier at this time. And I'd finally gotten to a place where I said, Grandma, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna lose the weight. I'm really gonna press in, and I'm gonna get on this exercise regimen, and I'm gonna start eating better. I'm gonna do it. And I look over at her in my passenger seat before she gets out of the car, and she says, my wrist is resting up against, she takes my wrist and she goes, oh, honey, you've always been big boned. you can't lose this weight. What are you thinking? And she just laughs in my face. And then she gets out of the car and she's like, thanks for lunch. And then walks, to her door. This was the woman who raised my mother. So I was getting it not only from my mother, but my grandmother and the other female relatives. My mom had 3 sisters. So I was getting this in every direction. And ultimately, because my mother never stood up to her mother's criticisms, harshness, abusive mistreatment, she subjected me and my siblings not only to her repeating that abusive pattern, but she also stayed immersed in it herself. And I was triply, doubly, quadruply affected by this same behavior being emitted from all of the females in my mother's family. And I pray for healing, for wholeness. But there are, just to be aware, I share my story so there are those of us out there, right? You can see these pictures on Facebook of me, gallivanting in the ocean with my little girl over spring break, or my nice house and my cat, my dog, my son, my husband. We look beautiful. We are lovely. However, there is a lot of pain in these pictures. I'm still walking out a battle, The latest update is I wrote this book. I felt called to write it. I actually experienced a vision where I saw the book come to publication. And at the time, I had no idea what I was writing about. But I just listened to God and I wrote 3 pages a day for like 3 years, connected with a publisher. And this is the book that is now for sale that you can read. It's also available in audio, on Kindle, several different formats. And it's a story of healing and hope. However, that healing and that hope, it's from glory to glory. There's not a point where I'm ever going to sit here and say, you know what? This is it, guys. Like, I got through this and now life is peachy keen jelly bean, because the truth is, as someone who is walking with Jesus, I am a follower of Jesus Christ, of the way. I don't call myself a Christian because I believe Christianity is just a religious offshoot. I don't think Jesus came here to start a new religion. I think he came to start a revolution of love. And if this is calling to you guys, you don't have to go to a church to follow Jesus. You don't have to give up alcohol, and which I was taught in my upbringing as a Pentecostal, you can never drink alcohol. That is just the worst thing you can do. And as I visited different offshoots of Christianity, every church seemed to have their thing that you couldn't do, but you could do this. So to me, the Bible is literally just being interpreted in different ways. And now we're making a corresponding church for how someone else interpreted what Jesus came to do, when the truth is, he came to show us that we're loved. He came to show us that we're worthy. He came to show us the degree of the love that he had for us was so intense, so recklessly pure. He gave himself. And he thought of you. He thought of me while he was on that cross. Someone loves you so much, they gave up their entire existence on this earth because he knew by doing that he would set us free. A revolution of love, not of more binding chains of religion, going to people who call themselves more superior than you, who claim they have extra access to God that you do not. I do have a gift. I see visions. I have dreams very vividly. And sometimes I know things before they happen. I have a gift, but that does not mean that I am closer or better than anyone else just because I have a gift. We all have gifts. Unfortunately for me, I landed the gift I found out back in 2019 that a lot of my female family members strongly coveted. I get to see my memories in the future. This is a gift that as people, I think we look at and we are just so enamored with, but there are other gifts, and I don't think God sees any gift like people do. I don't think he sees my gift and says, well, she's more useful than the person I gifted administratively, or the person I gifted as a teacher, or the person I gifted. They're all equal. It's just people make them more to mean more than what they really are. I'm still a person. I still make mistakes. I love Jesus with my whole heart, but I make no qualms about the fact that I'm on a journey. I'm an imperfect person seeking. And I think that is the point. That's really what definitively changed things for me, was seeking, right? God says, seek and you will find. And I have been seeking questions. I've been seeking out God's will for my life. I ask him about everything. I ask, should I go down this road? Should I go down that road? What do you want me to do next? What are you thinking about this? With my father's stage 3 colorectal diagnosis, I was taught to write this book. I was told to write this book. I did what I was told. I was obedient. I wrote the book. And as a result, my father is diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer. Following me clearing his name, he was accused of molesting me. And I completely forgot all of the events regarding anything that happened to me, because so much trauma had occurred in my life that I remembered by watching, and this is all in my book, a documentary called Rewind, which was about a man sharing his upbringing and about how he was molested. And so that is why I continue to speak out. That is why I will not be silenced, because I know someone out there that's watching this, that will catch an episode, that will hear this, will have their memories triggered. And for me, that was where the healing was able to start, once I could remember my trauma, because the mind and God, I don't know how much of that was God, protecting me from that information until him and I had a more solid relationship to where he knew I would be dealing with it with him. I really believe that in a lot of ways, that really saved my life at the time, not really fully having that settle in, because unbeknownst to me, all of my family members had known about this behind my back. My mom went and told everyone. And so I have a lot of anger that I'm still working through with how I just got dissed and dismissed, from my family, because I was no longer going to play into this manipulative mindset that each of them have adopted. It's toxic, it's sad. And it's mainly just, a power play for control. It's like my family is like the female mafia, and everyone wants leadership, and this is really happening. They are willing to topple whoever it takes to get that lead position in my family. This really happens in families, because this is what my grandmother taught, and it's probably what her mother taught her. And I am the first, oddly enough, I don't think it's a coincidence. I'm actually born on the same day as my grandmother was. And I believe I have a God-given assignment, right? No matter what I take, no matter the pain I go through, I will stand up, I will speak out, and I will call this what it is. It is wrong. It is wrong to treat family members as pawns, as we are a game of chess and you are just moving the pieces. But what it's done for me, and why I'm sharing all of this with you, is it's helped me to uncode these games that people play with one another. And I speak and I share for you so you can save your time and save your moments for those that matter, and stop squandering it on people who do not have good intentions, on who are just looking to play you, looking to own you, control you, use you for their own purposes. These people are out there. I found out the hardest way I possibly could, but I am grateful to God that he showed up so miraculously and powerfully in my life, although things are far from perfect and I struggle deeply. As I said, Easter was a really hard day for me. And I have Mother's Day right around the corner, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm dreading it. I'm trying to look, I am a positive person, but this has been devastating for me to even tell my story, and put it in this book format and then receive no response, from my family members. My sister, who's a pastor, still not reached out. My brother, who I think is going to be an elder at his church. Ironically enough, all of these family members of mine are deeply religious, and they've been the most contentious and the worst people in my life. My dad, even having stage 3 colon cancer, does not even, prompt anyone who claims to roll with God, to reach out and say, hey, man, I'm here. Like, can we have a conversation? Can we talk? Like, there's nothing. And it's almost like unbelievably crushing to me that people will go to this level of devastation, to try and hurt someone like me who is going out and sharing their story to encourage people, to help people, to tell them no matter how much pain others inflict on you for speaking out, keep showing up, keep speaking out. Don't ever be silenced, and don't ever stop standing for what you feel God has called you to do, whether people get it or not. That's not my business. Does it hurt when people treat me as less than because I am speaking out? Of course, I'm a person. I feel things. It hurts. But I definitively do not let that impact the direction where I am headed, because I know that just like me, that person has a set amount of time on the earth. That ain't it. I want to please the eternal one, the one who will be there. He's there in the beginning. He's going to be there in the end. He's not going anywhere, and he is for me. He is for you. And when you plug into that spiritual lifeline, heaven is unleashed in your life. And tell you what, you're going to be in for a battle, though. I will make no qualms about it. I have faced things that, I've been on adventures, I've been places, I've conquered things that only God knows I have had to overcome and conquer. And I am very proud of the person I am today, even though it is still very painful to be me with all of these unresolved relationship issues going on. But again, it's always darkest before the dawn. I've said this before, but I sincerely believe it. And it's like things do keep getting worse, but every time I read a Bible story, it's like you see when things are the worst for that biblical character, it's like right before the breakthrough comes. So friends, I am praying for you. If you are waiting and it feels like it's taking forever, you are in good company. It's not a perfect journey. It's a passionate pursuit, and it is one worth seeking. Well, this is all I have for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for connecting and listening. And I'm praying over you, your family, your friends, your relationships. And I pray God would bless you for tuning in, and that if you learned something here, please pass it on, because that is the way, friends. Help each other so we feel encouraged to help the next person. And then that is the ripple effect that just keeps going. And I believe when all is said and done and I am standing there before my Maker, I'm going to hear, well done, good and faithful servant, because it's not just me, right? It's not just about you. It's about what you can do, how you can touch someone else's life, and then they'll touch someone else's because you touched theirs. And we get to hear about all of this for eternity in heaven. You might never know on the earth how deeply you've impacted people, but I think that's some of those heavenly rewards that are waiting for us up there. Well, have a blessed weekend. I'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys.